Hello. Welcome back. It is another week of Wedding Film School live, and we've got a real awesome special show for you guys today.
Very special.
If you couldn't tell by our slightly amped up, a little more hype intro music that we hit y'all with. But we are excited. Today, of course, as always, I'm joined by Jay. Jay, another week. How you doing?
I'm doing wonderful. I feel like it's getting real that we're going to have like a wedding season, actually, and I'm going to have to shoot weddings again.
No.
So that's a thing.
I don't think so.
No, I'm feeling it. Like I'm already having to harass wedding planners to actually pay their final invoices and that they didn't pay. All that good stuff.
Of course.
And so, yeah, we're excited about it, and we are. But what I'm really excited about today is we have some very special guests on the show. And so we're going to get to them. But before we do that, I just want to encourage you guys, if you're enjoying this live stream, hit like, subscribe, and we got something special dropping in the Wedding Film School world next week, probably. And so stay tuned because we're going to be dropping. Do we not just tell? Have we kind of told people about it? Should we just tell people about it?
Yeah, we can talk about it.
Yeah, tell everybody what we're dropping next week.
Yeah, so next week we are starting kind of another branch of the Wedding Film School brand. What we have kind of come to the decision or the conclusion that we want to kind of separate the basics, the intro stuff, and the, like BTS, the gear reviews, the stuff that people who are, been doing this a while, maybe don't care so much about how aperture affects your image and stuff like that. So we've got Wedding Film 101. Dropping on a separate channel. We'll be making an announcement about that, and we would love to have you guys join us over there, show some support, help us get that off the ground. But it'll be some more intro stuff, some basic stuff, but I'm sure we'll grow that and kind of expand from there. But we want people to have a point to kind of start with us and then grow with us into the main Wedding Film School channel. But nothing will change here.
Live streams, BTSs, all gear stuff will stay here pretty much.
Organizing more than anything.
But also, I'd love it if you guys could go support us. If you're watching this and you want to support the channel, go subscribe and let people know who are getting started out in the wedding film industry that we're here for them. We still want to go back to those roots of educating people and helping people starting out. Obviously, this has become more of a nerd channel, and we want to maybe go back to it.
Because we're nerds. That's how it works.
Awesome. So why don't... Bobby, I'm going to just see you off for a little bit. And so everybody just say bye to Bobby for just a few minutes. Because
I'll be here in spirit.
I'm going to bring on
in the chat
two people who not only do I respect them, and this is, Alex and Whitney are some of the most humble people, so they're going to get really bothered that I'm complimenting them. But like the only person I've ever asked for a mentorship in the wedding industry is Alex Douglas. And I was like, the very first conversation I ever had with Alex, I reached out and I was like, hey, do you do the mentorships? And he was like, no, but I got this thing going on. Or maybe yes, but not right now. But I got this thing going on coming up called Vision Quest, and you can go to that. And I was like, okay. And I just bought 2 tickets. And we went, and that was years and years ago. I would say definitely changed my life. Was something that really impacted me as an artist, and also I have a lot of relationships. I almost feel like this channel almost exists in part because of that experience at Vision Quest. And so I have a lot of personal gratitude for Alex and Whitney, but also respect. So we're going to bring them on, and if you don't know about Sculpting with Time, you're about to know right now as I click this button. What's up, guys?
Hey, what's up?
Hey, Jason.
Thanks for bringing us on, man.
I'm super excited to have you guys on. I love it. Alex knows, and Whitney's probably like, oh my God, he's talking about with Jason. But like me and Alex can just go off and talk. And so like I genuinely appreciate you guys as friends, but also I'm really excited today because I feel like we're going to get to show the world just who you guys are as filmmakers. And so why don't you guys talk a little bit about, just for people who don't know about Sculpting with Time, talk a little bit about yourself in a way that, I don't know, like if someone's never heard of Sculpting with Time, like what maybe sets you maybe apart? Like tell about your approach to filmmaking.
Oh man, I haven't done this in a while. It's hard to
That's a biggie.
put ourselves in a box. I don't know. Winnie and I's background, we both are kind of like formally trained artists. She went to painting school in New York, and I went to film school at this small experimental film school, San Francisco Art Institute, that no longer exists even anymore.
Sadly.
Yeah, sadly. But I think we got into weddings just trying to survive as filmmakers and like as artists and like find a way to fit into capitalism, society, and the economy, and fell in love with like the storytelling of like still being a documentary filmmaker and like high stakes, one take, one chance, it's all happening in one day, but these two people are like professing their love for each other, and you're doing your best to like document it in a unique way. And I guess as we got more comfortable and confident along the way, we kept on sort of pushing different boundaries, or like learning new tools, or expanding our vocabulary, and just trying to stay creatively engaged and stay fulfilled, and stay true to our sort of roots and vision as artists, and just find our own unique voice.
Yeah, I think once you get that foundation down and you get a certain amount of weddings under your belt and you're comfortable with kind of the rhythm and the routine, then it's from an artistic perspective, how can I expand this? How can I make this more personal to like me, my approach for it? And so I think over the years, just really trying to curate and cultivate a distinct voice, a distinct brand, something that's really personally fulfilling as artists, as individuals, but then also really works for the type of couples that we end up attracting. And so we're able to, take a small amount of weddings each year, really get to know, invest in, investigate our couples, their stories, and are always just trying to work hard to create something super specific to them that we've never really done before. And so each film kind of becomes a new journey to some extent, a new kind of vibe. And yeah, just kind of always trying to push that bar further and further, and keep it to where we're not just working on some formula, and we're not just recreating, we're not recreating the wheel, but we're not just doing the same thing every time either.
Process of self-discovery.
Yes. So I was going to ask you something, and then we'll watch the film. But, one of the things that, I don't know if I think it's an earned privilege in wedding filmmaking, like an earned privilege to get to that point in your career where you can more freely express yourself. And so it ultimately becomes like, for some people, it's like a rejection of weddings. Like I feel like they become like a little preoccupied with making it not a wedding film. They're like, that's what an artist is it's not going to be that at all. And one of the things I think is really special about your work is it's unashamedly a wedding film. Like you're not trying to make something where you're like ashamed that you're wedding filmmakers and you wish you were doing something else. As much as we all as artists want to make a lot of different things. I love that about your films, that you're kind of bucking trends. You're kind of trying to do things unique and interesting, but you're also, I think, connecting with the story and that makes a wedding a wedding. So like, before we kind of watch the film, like what would your advice to be to people who are like, because one of the things I see a lot, Alex, is people who are making wedding films as they want to express themselves more. I think they tend to just go like, make it weird. And it's like, I don't think that that's necessarily more artistically viable than just kind of what would you say to people who are looking to maybe break out of the box of what a traditional wedding film could be?
I would always just say you have to, master the fundamentals and master the rules of the format of sort of like what makes a wedding film work and what is like the top bar, and master the basics, the fundamentals, all the rules, and then kind of like figure out ways that you can kind of challenge those rules or break them in your own unique way. So you're not just, you know, trying to copy someone, but then you don't necessarily know exactly what makes, someone else, some outliers work, function.
Yeah.
Or make it, what makes it successful. You're just trying to emulate that. And, it's not how many, dolly zooms or time lapses or keyframe rendered rotating shots or,
Quentin Tarantino yellow text.
Yeah. All that stuff. It's, knowing when to sprinkle that stuff in if you're doing it, using it for the appropriate couples, for the appropriate films, knowing when to pull back, knowing when to have tempo, when not to. Everything has to be motivated and have purpose and intention. And anything, if you're pushing too far in one direction, it's just, there's no sort of suspense for the viewer. It just becomes redundant, and there's no, they don't feel like, the viewer doesn't feel like there's something sophisticated happening that they're engaged by. It's like you showed them the trick, you showed them it again, and now it's like they're expecting it and you're just hitting them over the head with it, and there's no sort of level of sophistication to it.
I think that's where like a lot of what you're talking about is authenticity to you, but also authenticity to the day and authenticity to the couple, and just like the idea of like, does this feel like it makes sense? As much as you want to be a little edgy and interesting, and that's like an important part, I think, for especially a lot of people. Sometimes one of the things I see a lot, Alex, when we're doing these film critiques is you see people who are shooting like a backyard barn wedding. There's nothing wrong with that. And there's a cool creative way probably to do that, where you can kind of push a little harder and be more interesting. But what they do is they go like, oh, I watched this Sculpting with Time film, and they try to take that formula, especially the visual formula or the audio formula, and slap it onto the barn wedding. And I'll always tell them, it doesn't feel authentic. It doesn't feel authentic. It doesn't feel like it fits, and I love about your films is like, we're about to watch a film, and it's, my opinion, I was telling you before, it's almost not a wedding film. It's a love story, right? And it's kind of like breaks the boundaries of a wedding day and into the couple and relationship. But I would never watch this film and be like, I don't think it's weird. Like, it's creative, but I don't watch it and go like, this is weird. It's like off-putting. Like one time I went to this fancy restaurant, guys, and the end of the meal, and they come up to me and they're like, it was this really disappointing meal. It was like the most expensive restaurant in the Riviera Maya. And so we go to this restaurant, and it's like one of those 24-course gastronomy things. And a lot of times they're so pretentious, right? And they end the meal and they bring out dessert. They go, here's your dessert. And I'm like, okay. And then in the middle, there's a gray gelatinous box. And I'm like, what is that? And the guy goes, it's concrete. And I was like, concrete? He's like, you can eat it. I was like, I don't want to. And I ate it, and you know what it tasted like? Concrete. It tasted like concrete.
Brutal.
It was, and I think a lot of people, they're like, I'm gonna do something creative and interesting, and I'm like, it's concrete. Like, it doesn't taste good. It doesn't feel good. And I love this film because it's unique. It's a little weird, but it feels so right. And I think it encapsulates like your style perfectly. And so I almost feel like I'm so privileged to get to play this, because I think this is the type of film that someone's going to watch this and it's going to totally open up their approach So we're gonna play the film, guys. Are you guys ready? Alex, Whitney, can we play the film?
Yeah. Do you want us to
Could we?
preface
Yeah.
it? Or?
Could
Yeah,
they
yeah.
preface it? Because
Yeah,
I really
yeah.
like the story.
I love the story. Yeah. So I was going to ask you is, tell everybody about the film, kind of how you kind of led into it, and maybe keep a little surprises, but let people know what's the story with this film.
You want to start?
Okay, yeah, well, great question. I think it kind of all goes back, it all starts with the couple, right? And so this couple themselves are artists and innovators and some of the most unique people we've met. The groom runs and founded Relativity Space, which is a 3D rocket printing manufacturing space. And the bride is an LA-based artist that's training to be an astronaut. And so they're very very different type of couple for us. And so when we first met with them, they're like, what have you guys always wanted to do in a wedding film? We want to collaborate with you. We want to create something that you've never done, that you've never seen.
And
And
so we tried to come up with different things. We're like, can you take us on the 0G plane and like
yes,
film you, or whatever, or like you want to wear your astronaut suit, or I don't know, go out to the volcano and do whatever. And then we realized there's something so much more simple. And it was like, we don't need to do all these crazy gimmicky things. Like the magic is right there in front of us. It's just these people's lives, who they are as people. And like, a wedding day is just like this small sliver or snapshot of these people's, much larger story, or their love, and trying to kind of like stuff all these sort of complex feelings or all this story into one day. You can't capture all that. And we thought, well, I'm going to be in LA. I had a wedding I was out there for, and I was like, if you guys are going to be around this day, why don't I go to, Rochelle, the artist studio, and film her like going through her projects, and go to Tim's laboratory or manufacturing complex, and document, what all it is to 3D print rockets. And yeah, so it's just like, why not include that stuff? And then once I saw the 3D printing rockets, I was like, this kind of feels like Westworld, like, this sort of 3D printing, like these AI sentient robots. And then it like brought in the question, like, what's, real, what's our memories, what's,
Just normal
these-
wedding stuff.
what makes
Yeah.
us who we are? What makes
yeah,
us
what
who
makes
we
us who we
are?
are.
And then that contrast from technology to like the
Well,
epic landscapes of Hawaii are just unreal, right? From rainforest to summits of volcanoes to just kind of everything in between. I think that
they're building these rockets to go to Mars eventually, like that's the plan. And so it's like this whole complex operation to sort of build this rocket, and she wants to be an astronaut, and somehow it just felt like they're trying to build this to like fulfill their dreams, to like overlap science and art. And like they always say, like science and art like equal
like as a
wonder.
Venn
Yeah,
diagram where the science and art overlap, it's wonder, and they just chase wonder in their lives. They want to be enthralled with just everything they encounter, everything they create, and
and it felt like that was their anthem. And so it just felt like if we were only filming the wedding, like we would sort of miss the whole boat of like who they are as people, what their sort of like battle cry is. And it's like, if I want to be authentic to who these people are, I need to sort of, even if it's just one day, I'll still stick to the 4, 5, 8 minute, format of a wedding film. But like, I need to sort of honor a little bit more who these people's story are. But at the same time, they're also very unique and artistic. And so like, they didn't want some run of the mill, straightforward documentary. So I knew I had the flexibility and latitude to sort of creatively push it in the editing suite, to sort of abstractly bring these elements together, to make it more engaging and mysterious, and more sort of a dream or more poetic, sort of like Tree of Life, or Tree of Life meets Interstellar meets Westworld, and Hawaii, which is sort of symbolically like the Garden of Eden or something. Yeah.
Meets a wedding.
Well, what I love, we'll watch the film, but one of the things I love about it, even though I actually really love the big opulent weddings. Like I think it's really cool.
Sure.
Like I'm not bored of it. Like if there's crazy florals, you better show me. But like, I have no idea if there was crazy florals at this wedding, and it's like really interesting because I didn't think about it once when I was watching the film. And normally I'd be like, oh, give me a sense of place, and I did feel a sense of place, but it's. I don't want to talk about it. Let's just play the film.
Yeah, let's play the film.
I'm gonna go full screen with this thing, and we'll all keep our mouths shut, and then we'll come back and we'll stop and we'll go through the film a little bit.
Cool.
So yes, here we go.
And
Whoops. I should probably start from the beginning of the film. Actually, that's one frame in the middle, guys. The frame I picked that I think has.
This film was actually meant to be played in starting in different spots. Isn't
Yeah,
it, right?
that's how artistic it is. You actually have to know where to start the film, and then you click around. It's like a choose your own adventure. So great job, guys. All right, here we go.
I think when we look to our future and we envision our dreams out there, I almost feel like we're able to crystallize those dreams because we know that we've got this foundation between us. And although we're stretching ourselves and going into unknown territory every second, it is possible because I can reach out and hold your hand. Together, looking out, holding hands, and facing the world.
Michelle, I already feel like in life we've dreamed 1,000 dreams. And this is the last great one. The one last journey.
The Mother Earth, the Father Sky. As long as there is awe, we have every reason to seek out the love of this life. And that makes our love eternal.
Together, I feel infinite. And I will always love you.
We saw how we were gonna shape and create a beautiful life together. It's like seeing the possibilities of what could be and catching up to that vision.
Our life is our greatest art piece, the most magical collaboration.
We don't settle, we jump in. Feel like we're on a roller coaster. Those moments of feeling like you're levitating in zero gravity, and then you're feeling that force as you come back down.
No matter what we actually do, we are coming from a place of wonder.
Their songs, their stories, our poems, their maps from where we went.
We're on this journey together, and let's see where we go.
Pretty good, guys. Good. I think you guys are onto something with this wedding filmmaking career. Really cool, guys. I would love to go through this film with you guys and ask a few questions about a few things. And then, of course, audience, Bobby's going to be kind of in the chat. And I don't know if is there like
keeping my eye out,
a Q&A function or something? Can we do that?
I don't think so. So I think what we would like, everybody who's in chat, I know Alex and Whitney are so graciously sharing not only their time, but their knowledge and thoughts and whatnot. So if you have questions about their film or just questions in general for them, start dropping them in chat. Jay's going to start off with a few, and then we will kind of comb through any questions in chat and send them over to Alex and Whitney.
Yeah, Whit actually has to go pick up our sweet Olivia from.
We will send them over to Alex.
Pre-K, so she'll be back later, but she has to, go pick up our daughter.
So,
Want to say bye? Here, let me pop on real quick.
Yeah.
Bye, guys. Thanks for
Bye,
having
Whitney.
us.
Thank
bye, Whitney.
you.
Love you. So there's a first thing I was going to ask is about this shot.
Yeah.
Did you guys document this? Or did they go on an experience, or is this stock footage? What is this them?
Yeah, that's actually her. I believe it's the shadow. It's like her film, but it's her GoPro or whatever. So, but that's actually at the same volcanic crater that you see them at later in the film. That's Hala Kalea. And it was once a volcano. It's now a crater where it looks like the Grand Canyon essentially inside. And that's where they do these sort of 3-week astronaut training sessions where it simulates the environment of being like on Mars. And you have to wear like your astronaut suit the whole time. And like you live in these little biodomes. And so yeah, she like is not just aspiring like, oh, I have a dream to be an astronaut. Like she actually like goes through like intensive training like that. And so yeah, that was some of her footage. We tried to collect, some old home movie footage, but then also for more of like a memory, like flashback to show like I don't know, like past, present, future versions of themselves. There's a scene in Vertigo where like it's in Muir Woods and there are these old redwood trees and the redwoods cut down and they're staring at all the rings of the redwood tree. And it's like, if you're familiar, it shows sort of like a timeline or each one's like 100 years essentially in the ring. And
so it's pretty surface level stuff.
Yeah, Kim Novak. I don't know if you're familiar with the film, but it's one of my favorite films.
Yeah, no, Vertigo is
Kim Novak and James Stewart. But she like points like, I'm from out here, and like he's like, this is where we are right now, and she's like, I'm from here, like essentially from outside of time. And so we kind of wanted the sort of memory footage to feel like that versus just and like the future footage of the stars or the footage we shot with the projection mapping on them of like the stars and everything, just to sort of bridge past, present, and future. But yeah, I got distracted. Yes, that was actually footage of her. So yeah, we collected their iPhone footage, their experiments at Relativity Space with their 3D printing machines. We collected their home movies, and we use it all sparingly, but it kind of lends to giving. Well, they all do something different.
Well,
like
yeah,
the 3D printing stuff kind of adds to that sci-fi Westworld, like printing memories, printing experiences, or like what's real, what's not. or like building these spaceship vessel things to get to Mars or whatever. And yeah, so that was actually a shot of her, but
well, it
I
kind of
think
just goes with that theme of like them, people being more than who they are on their wedding day, and I think like capturing that so beautifully. So one of the things I think from a filmmaking standpoint, just we're all, if you're a filmmaker, you know, we all have to capture audio. We all have to weave a story. We all have to, maybe not have to, but many of us choose to kind of include audio from the couple. And I think one of the strongest points of this film is the couple's dialogue. And so how was that captured? Tell everybody a little bit about like when and where, and what was the context of how that kind of interview was done.
Yeah, so a few different ways. Later in the film, you'll see them lying in bed, where I wanted to have like audio synced at some point. So you'll see them like lying in bed, like talking to each other. And then you actually see, oh, this audio you've been kind of hearing is actually them just lying in bed, like talking to each other.
And was that like an intentional choice to wait that long to reveal them?
To some degree, I think that's also the only part where they're really talking to each other. The other stuff is more like standing at the edge of, you know, eternity and kind of like calling out to each other. So they're by themselves earlier in the film, like in a dark sensory deprivation like space where they're actually in complete blackness in a room. I like cut out all the light, and he's actually curled up in a ball, lying on the floor.
But that's great. Like you created like a special environment for them, and I think you can hear it like in the parts where they're alone.
Yeah,
the way that they talk.
They sound so intimate and vulnerable and authentic. Yeah,
and the pacing of how they speak to each other, and then that they're different people when they're with each other. Like the way they talk when they're with each other, the cadence and the pacing and everything about their tone of voice is like a different. I feel like I picked up on kind of like the isolation component and the togetherness component, and almost that journey.
Well, and the pacing picks up, you know, dramatically in that last act of the film, and so it felt like the appropriate place to sort of. They were like really vibing off each other, and their energy was getting a little more, you know, the tempo or cadence in their voice was picking up. So it effectively sort of matched the tempo of the music at that point.
Yeah, I love that. So why don't you tell people a little bit about, because I told you, I said like, excuse me. Yeah, you know, and I think anyone watching it would see like, it's borderline not a wedding film.
Yeah.
You know, because at least in a traditional sense, because I think the average wedding, and there's for good reason. Like this is the formula I use, right? You go to the wedding day, you tell the story of the day, right? And of course the couple's a part of it. But at the end of the day, like this film doesn't follow that formula. And you kind of give a little background of why, you know, the couple kind of requested it and you got the opportunity to do it. But like after going through it all, like how do you feel about like kind of not just how it turned out, but like the idea of like wedding films breaking the boundaries of the wedding day? Like, is that like, was that always what you wanted to do with this film, or is it kind of organically what it sprang into?
I think in one way or another, our films sort of break that wall or boundary. You know, they're always trying to push in different directions. It's not always trying to break it the same way, you know, that wall or barrier, but I feel like I'm always trying to sort of reinvent ways to, you know, tell the same story, because let's face it, we're telling the same story like every weekend, you know.
Yep.
But within those constraints, you can find sort of creative liberation and freedom, due to, you know, it's the same story, but the people, you know, the characters playing those roles are drastically different. The environment is different. What actually happens on the day of is different as far as like their energy, their tone, their friends that they're interacting with, um, the photographer, how they sort of direct the day. So there are a lot of variables that come into play that give sort of each wedding its own sort of identity or character or authenticity. And so instead of like, trying to put every sort of project in sort of, the same equation or formula, I try and, for the most part, I mean, I'm not reinventing the wheel or anything, but I try and see what separates them for to some extent and sort of riff off of that and vibe off of that and like further differentiate each film from the last one in a selfish way because I just want it to be more creatively challenging and fulfilling for me. But I also know there's merit in it for my couples that they want something that feels like it's more bespoke or custom tailored, if you want to use
no,
those sort
100%.
of trendy words that,
No,
that
yeah.
is more fitting to who they are as people and their story. And then for couples down the road, it's like, oh, we actually want something more romantic, or oh, we want something that's like super like high energy and vibey, or we want something, it's like I can point them to sort of any one of my films and be like, oh, well, we got this, we got that, and we'll tell our couples, just watch like the stuff on our Instagram and or on our website and just tell us what resonates with you most, but everything's going to be a little different. And hopefully that'll give us an idea of sort of like what you're after, what you're
Well, and it's like the couple's bought in already. Like when they walk in the door, when the work is, I don't want to say it's polarizing. I think most people would enjoy this.
Yeah.
Which I think is a great thing about your work is like, obviously it's not for everyone, and that's not good. You don't want to make work that's for everyone, I think. But I think it is good to make work that most anyone can enjoy.
Sure.
And I think when I watch this, I'm like, whether or not you love wedding films or not, you would probably enjoy this. And so I think it's like across the board, if there's like that through line of authenticity and pushing the boundary a little bit, the films can all be different, but that's the consistent thing, right? And I think different couples will have different ways of presenting and like looking for what that is. And given like, so the last question I was going to ask you is a more philosophical question, and then I want to get to some viewer submitted questions and get to answering some questions. So guys, get them ready. But what would you say to filmmakers who are, because so many filmmakers want to make, maybe not this specifically, but everything from like something where there's a high level of buy-in from the client and they're almost like a collaborative partner. And like, I know for firsthand, like I can shoot a luxury wedding and the couple will be like, I don't want to speak to you. And like, you can't make this film, like you can't make this film with the couple that like literally won't even get on a call with me to explain to them the deliverables. They're kidding. And some couples are not down with this stuff and like, for all different reasons. What would you say to people who are like, hey, I want to do this. How can people create more buy-in with their people they're working with and more intimacy so that they can maybe pull more out of their couples?
Yeah. I mean, I get that. I get the sort of full spectrum of clients, half my clients, if not more, I don't even get to talk to. Like there's no meeting, there's no FaceTime, there's no Zoom, there's no nothing. It's just a level of distance and detachment. The planner wants to just sort of handle everything, and that's like the high-end experience that the planner, wants to create for the client. Is they want them to feel like they're completely hands off and the planner is going to sort of handle everything. And that's what a luxury sort of experience should be like for a client. which is fine. We can perform and show up and, act super professional in those environments. But I know there's also a level of buy-in from those clients, even still, because they had to sign off on saying, yeah, I like that. Even if they don't want to talk to me, they said they really liked our work. And I do agree our work, is polarizing, if you want to use that term. I don't, that seems kind of harsh, but
yeah, I don't view it as polarizing, but it's definitely kind
you're
of
either gonna want to work with us or not. And that's great for me because, we don't want to take on the amount of like legwork on the editing and the pre-production and just the brain work. I would get burnt out personally, and if I'm not personally invested or engaged or inspired or fulfilled, like it shows in its work, in my work, and what unfortunately, after I put out a few films that are function on this level, I think the first one was like Singapore, Italy, everyone. That was like now it's like 6 or 7 years ago. I set this bar for my clients that they expect, this level of production and, this much B-roll and this, this many like portrait shoots with the couple.
How many did you do with this film? How many portrait sessions?
We did one inside the volcano. We did one in the forest. We did one in their hotel room. We did one at the art studio. We did one at the rocket printing factory. And then we did one in their bed in LA. And they had just bought this like crazy mansion in the hills of Beverly Hills, like one of the top mountains. And I'm like, as awesome as this mansion is that overlooks all of LA, and like it's the back walls just like 3 stories, just all were one singular wall and like opened up all the way, and just like opened up into the pool and the view. And I was like, as much as I'd love to include this as like another location in the film, I'm just like, I have too many locations and portrait shoots. Like I just have to like not shoot this.
Yeah, you're doing something right when you have actually stuff on the cutting room floor. And that'd be like, it's actually a great filmmaking tip, guys, is if you're constantly running out of stuff when you're putting your stuff together, you're not shooting enough. But I know for a fact you're looking at this and like, this must have been, it's like a kid in a candy store with all the beautiful stuff you have.
Alex, can I ask? Or sorry, go ahead.
No,
I was curious.
Like I didn't really answer y'all's question, but that's fine.
No, go for it. Keep going.
Do you want to?
No, keep going.
Keep going.
So I think getting back to what you're saying, attracting clients like that, like I barely get them. I maybe get 1 or 2 a year that I have like total buy-in. And then, I just got lucky with this one that they had such an interesting backstory, but I don't feel like your clients have to be astronauts or rocket engineers to, create something, unique like this.
That's great advice.
I do think though, like building a relationship, when you have to like, you can't fit a square peg into a round hole, so you have to kind of know the clients that are extra like gooey and like in love with your work and like, cannot stop throwing you showers of compliments to your way. And those are the type of people that will, go to battle or war for you and are really hyped and amped to like whatever you need, so, don't ask the people that, don't even seem that thrilled about, having a wedding film or, didn't even, are haggling you on your prices or don't even necessarily, maybe the groom in particular doesn't really even see the merit in you being there and he wants to be the cool guy that's like, whatever, I don't care about these photos or wedding film. Those obviously aren't going to be the type of people that are going to buy in. So, read the room, find the people that would be best suitable for that, and just start developing a relationship with them. I'll tell clients, I don't want this to be the only time we chat. If you want to grab a beer, or you want to, even if it's just before the wedding day, if it's a destination shoot, like happy to grab a drink with them or just chat about any of their questions on Zoom, or maybe I'll send them a letter just saying, hey, these are some of my ideas. What are you thinking about it? There are lots of ways to sort of interact and engage with the couple and get
I
them
want to stop you there
excited.
because I think this is something I've learned over the years, not to your level, but
Yeah.
I would agree. And it works with wedding planners too and other people in the
Yeah.
industry, but like bring ideas.
Right.
Like if you're working with people and you're like, what do you want? And that's your only move to get creative ideas, and then the couple tells you and you make it, that's cool.
Sure.
And that will happen. But I think the number one thing I found is everyone loves it when you have a vision for them.
Right.
When you show up and you're like, oh man, I was thinking about you and we should do this. And I would say, like, if you have never tried that and you were working with a couple with a lot of buy-in and like, oh, they're kind of the type of person or people that Alex is describing, try just throwing some ideas out there and seeing how responsive they are. And like at that point, it's not about the money, as much as we all want to get paid for our time. If you're really wanting to make something special, it's about making that thing that you want to make and knowing it'll pay off. And I think at the end of the day, like, yeah, that's great advice, Alex. So Bobby, why don't you ask your question and then start presenting some questions, and we'll get right into it with the
kind
viewers.
of on that note, Alex, that we just kind of ended on, I'm curious, whether it's this film specifically, or you mentioned, you have some other films where you kind of have that level of buy-in from your client. How collaborative is, like, obviously you're kind of pitching these different shoots. For example, I think you mentioned 5 or 6 different shoots for this film, or portrait shoots for this film. But how clued in are they on kind of the overall concept of the film, for example? Like you've mentioned a lot of more like theoretical concept stuff that came together, I imagine, in the edit and was part of the pre-production stuff. How much do they have a say in that? How much of that are you running by them? Or are you kind of just throwing like, hey, I want to do these different shoots. Do you trust me? Kind of.
Yeah, it's more, just I would say getting them to buy into the shoots. Hey, would you like to go to the volcano? Or I think, they had decided they were just going to do the volcano and this beach. And it's kind of hard to location scout when I've never been to a place before.
Yeah.
So you're trusting the locals, you're trusting them, but I don't know. At the same time, I find like my first time in a location it's pretty exhilarating because it's like, oh, I've never gotten to like play with this sort of palette before. Like, I wonder what a Hawaii film should feel like, In the same way, like me being an outsider, I feel like our Italy films are very notorious and they have this very like authentically Italy thing, even more so than some Italian filmmakers. But just being the outsider, I feel like I can tap into what sort of a tourist, wants to feel and experience when they're in Italy. And so I can kind of like I can sort of assemble and fabricate that sort of experience. So the same thing with Hawaii. It's like, oh, I wonder, like what are they're excited about is sort of this being this sort of like, oh, it's sort of God's, creation, Garden of Eden. It came out of nothing, out of the ocean, out of a volcano. And it's this pristine, over lush, all these sort of elements of earth and fire and water coming together. And they just wanted to do it on this like touristy beach. And I'm like, no, man, like that's not gonna cut it. Like we need to find something that looks like this epic jungle. And then I go like, hunting locations and Pinterest boarding and Instagram tagging and just hunting for locations that could work. And found the location you end up seeing that is the thumbnail for the film with these sort of epic trees and lush forest vibe. But I think, yeah, I really just, I'm like, hey, at sunrise, if you guys would be up for it, I know you wanted to do that beach. You can still do that with the photographer, but if you be up for it at sunrise, just trust me, this forest, if we can get out there, it's gonna be epic. And they're like,
Yeah.
okay, yeah, we trust you, and same thing with, I was like, with the art studio and the rocket factory, I didn't pitch the whole concept, but I was like, after we shot the wedding, and I was like, hey, I just got back. I'm starting to edit all this. I think it's great, but you know, I think you guys have such a unique story in your own right, and I feel like it's just I can't really get the whole scene or vibe like into this film. Like, I'm gonna be in LA for this wedding. Can you set it up with you? And they got me in touch with their assistant, and so we just
That
set
was
something
after
up.
the wedding you shot that?
Yeah, yeah.
Ah, okay.
Um,
That's a nice little
like
nugget.
a few weeks, like a month
Yeah.
afterwards.
Yeah, but you knew there was something that was missing. You felt
Yeah.
that. That's
Yeah.
interesting.
And so, yeah, it's just sort of like, get familiar with your footage, get familiar with your couple, know what you need to tell the best version of the story. Don't be, I don't know, in this situation, I didn't want to be limited or constrained by what I had. But on location while you're shooting, pitch whatever you can to them. I knew sort of the elements that were at play and what they were after, but I didn't know how it was all going to come together. So I would just sort of like, I know this would be a great location. I know I like to contrast, okay, I have these beautiful, epic exterior shots, like, but it looks too postcardy. Like, I need something raw and dirty of you guys together. Like, I know personally I need to contrast that, like, with something intimate and vulnerable. Otherwise, everything just looks too staged in like a postcard, and that doesn't feel authentic to me personally. So that's when I'm like, okay, I need to pitch you guys on like hanging out in a bed or hanging out like just writing letters to each other,
Yeah.
type of thing. So just reading the room, reading the environment, knowing your footage. You don't have to have everything mapped out as far as what the whole film's going to look like. I would be like completely paralyzed, trying to come up with what ended up being the end result.
Yeah.
But taking your ability as a filmmaker and your ability to shoot things in a dynamic and cinematic way, and using your technique and just taking that to each environment that you're shooting in, getting your wides, your tights, your trick shots, your abstract shots, and then I have that much more ammo when I end up getting to the editing suite.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, again, you brought up again the same thing. I get a lot of footage, and then you'll have a lot more to paint with.
Yep.
Get a lot of stuff and give yourself options. And so many filmmakers, I think, pride themselves up, like, talk to them and they're like, yeah, I only shoot 10 shots all day because I know the shots I need for my films. And I'm like, okay, like, why? Like, give yourself more opportunity. If maybe people don't care, by the way, but if you want to make stuff like this and you want to push your boundaries more, you better have more to work with. And I think that's great. So we're going to get into some film reviews, Alex. So
We've got a bunch of questions from the
cool.
audience that we've kind of promised we would chat through.
Oh,
So
that's
I
true.
think
I
we should
forgot
do
about that.
Yeah.
Let's do that. And then we'll do a couple film reviews.
Yeah.
Sweet.
So I'm going to comb through some of these. Alex, I think some of these are, if you want to play the film in the background again, Jay, if you want to restart it. Some of these can be kind of quick hitters. Some, maybe a little more theoretical.
Let's do it.
You can dive
thanks
in,
for watching on the live stream, guys, and having questions and, supporting and Wedding Film School and myself. If I was just making these films and throwing them into a black void, I would probably, I don't know. quit at a certain point. But you know, you guys, you know, being so supportive and your engagement and stuff has really, you know, kept me going and inspired me to like, oh, I'm doing something that people appreciate and respect, and it definitely pushes me to like keep pushing further. So
Yeah,
thank you.
and I think
Love
that's
it.
the good thing about community in general. So we appreciate
Yeah.
it as well, Alex.
So first question, talking about, obviously we saw the couple in bed talking to each other. We heard their voices, on and off until that point. I think you've kind of touched on this a little bit, but how much of that was conversational versus like scripted or letters that were written? And then also, did you play any role in that, or did you just kind of let them be?
Yeah, none of it was written down, none of it was scripted. So a lot of it, you know, like when they were lying down in bed, I would kind of start a topic, you know, or ask them a question, and they would just kind of like riff off of each other. And you know, they had a glass or two of wine, and they're just kind of like relaxed and, you know, chatting
Yeah.
with each other. Just and I just had two camera angles going continuously, and I just had a boom mic above them. Um, and then the other stuff, I don't know, it's um, a little different. I guess I would just kind of, you know, I joked how I just kind of like created a sensory deprivation tank, but I would just kind of like take them on these sort of like guided meditations, where I would just kind of get them to buy in and relax and sort of like feel like their partner was there with us. And then,
Oh, you should take us all on a guided meditation.
yeah, no, that's proprietary information there. And just get them to buy in, essentially.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, nothing was scripted or written.
Okay. Cool. What about, so one of the other things we've had this come up in a few different questions in some way, shape, or form, but what's kind of so I guess the assumption is some shots in this are stock footage or something along those lines. What's kind of your approach to that? Like, is that like plugging holes, or is that like more intentional, or yeah.
Yeah, there's not really any stock footage. The only thing that I mean, there's footage that like is the couples footage. You know, there's
Yeah.
like a shot
Yeah.
of the Earth from afar, but I use that as a transition into the shot that from my drone that's going through the clouds
Yeah.
directly afterwards. There's like two cells coming out of one, and there's time lapse of like plants being grown.
Yeah.
One or two of the lava shots, but you know, I was just really, if it helps me tell my story better and like gives to a bigger whole, and my shots are on par with whatever I'm, you know, adding in to supplement.
Yeah.
Like if it was like I don't have any B-roll, beautiful B-roll, and like I throw in this epic shot of Hawaii or New York or whatever, you're like, hey, none of your other shots look like that, but like, oh, the tiger, that's not
Yeah.
mine.
I was
Okay.
saying, you get one of those classic Hawaii tigers.
Yeah, but that's baked into the song.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
the roar or
so
whatever.
I had to have a fucking tiger there because it'd be so weird if you hear this, you know, sound of a tiger from this
Yeah.
song. And
I like that.
there's
I love that there's a tiger because it feels so random, but also not random.
it feels so primal. So I'm
Yes.
just like, I'm
Yeah.
gonna roll with it.
Yeah,
you
I
know?
like that.
And it goes with the lightning and, you know, her and all that. So I'm cool with that. But yeah, I feel like I've like proven with like all my B-roll that like, you know, I could be selling it on any of those stock footage
Oh,
sites.
totally. Yeah.
So if I sprinkle in a shot or two here, I'm up at sunrise every morning when I'm on a shoot like this for 6 days, um, getting B-roll of all these places. So if
Yeah.
I don't feel like guilty if I need to sprinkle in a shot here or there, because I feel like I've earned
No,
my
yeah, I don't think that was
stripes.
the like thought behind that question. I
Yeah.
think it was more like the the mindset of the process of maybe incorporating some
Yeah.
like how do you come to the idea of be like, oh, you know what I need is a plant growing right here.
Yeah.
Like where does that come from or something like that was maybe more the
I
question.
think it just felt like it fit into the bigger narrative of
Yeah.
this new beginning, like this, like thinking of Hawaii as um, like on the first day God created, this or that, and like here is this new like life being
Yeah.
born, and also like this love being born, um, and these, what was singular or separate becoming wholesome, from these two people. Just a lot of symbolism,
Yeah.
So if it can
Totally.
make sense as sort of visual poetry, like as a language in itself, symbolically, like,
Yeah.
that there's sort of repeating symbolism, um, or that like just visually you can tell a story with that sort of symbolism.
Totally.
Especially, I can't remember specifically what's being said by the groom at that point as the voiceover, but I feel like it's very sort of Alan Wattsy, like
He
about
he says like this is our last journey, like our
yeah,
final adventure together. So it's almost
yeah,
like I kept thinking about space travel the whole time I'm watching the film.
right,
I'm like, they're about to get on a spaceship, and that's their wedding.
yeah,
Like,
yeah,
I don't know. It's just anyway. It's funny because a lot of times when you're doing symbolism, it's like, oh, it's too on the nose. Like
yeah,
there's the idea of like you don't want to be too on the nose, but also you don't want it to be so abstract no one knows what you're talking about, right? And I almost feel like this was like that perfect balance. So, what other questions do we got?
Well, I feel like that's the sort of challenge with sort of nonlinear editing styles, where not everything is just sequential.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, you can have it like sprinkle in stuff that's like from a different time period, or it's not sequential, but you also have to have these moments where it syncs up, as well, to where the viewer can be like, oh yeah, that's a sync point that happened together, and that's intentional.
Yeah.
And so like this is our last journey, and it's like if I had that shot of like the Google Earth zooming in, anywhere else, like, but it's like, okay, now you're like shooting through space, coming in, and this is their last journey, and they're like landing, and then the next shot directly after that is like following up that same zoom in, with the drone shot sped up, and it starts from coming in the clouds because I was in this bed of clouds, and then pushing through to
That
like
was a
this
nice
very
little
lush
editing
landscape.
trick too. I love that.
Yeah,
That little
yeah.
thoop, thoop. That was like
So next question, whether it's for this film specifically or just any
Mhm.
film you make, and maybe I guess focus maybe on this film because this is one we watch, but you create this amazing film, but I think we all know as artists we can be our own hardest critic, and so one of the questions that you got was what's kind of the thought process before you send it off to your couple, and do you feel any doubt or uncertainty um, when you hit that send button?
Yeah, that's a good question. Yeah, I think, I'm always a nervous wreck. Like if I don't hear back from a client within, I don't know, 12 hours, 6 hours, 2 hours even, um, not a nervous wreck, but I mean, it's definitely in the back of my mind. I feel like even before every wedding, I'm very nervous, and I have to sort of say like a little um, mantra to myself to like, get myself amped up. And I don't know, I get anxiety. Just I think I'm a very sensitive, thoughtful person. I tend to overthink things. I overfeel things. But that's sort of like my superpower as well, and it shows up in my work, and over meticulously thinking about the edits and each frame and how they transition into each other and the symbolism and, on the shoots, how to shoot everything or what shots or, shoot additional shoots are necessary. And so yeah, it's sort of my biggest enemy is being oversensitive and over, thoughtful and having that anxiety, but it's also sort of one of my superpowers, I guess. And, not that I compare myself to these people, but I remind myself, hey, even like Kobe Bryant or Michael Jordan or whatever, like they would get super nervous before every game. And here they are, like at the pinnacle of their careers, the top echelon, the Mount Rushmore of basketball, and like here they are like wishing they you know I don't know, saying some sort of mantra and like being super serious before the games and like trying to amp themselves up as well. So I feel like if they can get nervous and spooked, then it's okay if I do too.
Yeah, fair. Cool. We got one or two more. There's a question about you don't have to dive into like specific numbers or anything like that, but like as a concept, how are you quoting something like this, and does it expand as the project? Like it sounds like this project kind of started here and then it kind of kept growing to these other opportunities to capture. Like, how rigid are you with that, and yeah, how are you approaching that?
I mean, this one was sort of new for us, so we didn't
Fair.
necessarily know the scale of the project. Luckily, our starting prices are high enough to like have a buffer zone
Yeah.
at this stage in our career. It took us a long time to get to that point. There was a lot of sweat equity that was put into it. Um, but at this point, I know like my margins are going to be covered. But, I'm not charging them per each shoot, like while I was in Hawaii, for
Hmm.
instance. Um, Certain couples, I already knew this was going to be a little bit larger, but like I definitely put in some additional work that I wasn't billing for.
Yeah.
But certain couples, I will charge per hour. Like, oh, you want a portrait shoot? Like that's
Yeah.
X, Y, and Z. Um, and I think they did pay for a portrait shoot,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
they didn't pay for all of these portrait shoots. And then LA, I had them pay for my travel and everything. But, I kind of, a lot of times I'll sort of do something original and then I have it, in my portfolio that like if someone wants this sort of like legacy lifestyle love story
Yeah.
slash wedding film,
You kind of know
um,
what it looks like.
they know what it looks like, and
Yeah.
I'm going to charge you 4 times what I charge them, you
Yeah.
know. Um, so, but like if it was just a destination wedding, um, I've done those enough to where I know, what I should be charging for
Yep.
them and what it entails, and that they're gonna put me up, a minimum of 4 nights. And I'm gonna have a different quote, than a stateside wedding because I know I'm gonna have to be out getting B-roll and stuff like that
For sure.
for multiple days.
Well, one last question, then we're gonna dive into a couple film critiques from the community here, and we'll talk about that in a second. But Alex, you can answer this or you cannot answer this. Any talk, any whispers of Vision Quest making a return? Got a couple questions about that.
Oh yeah, cool. Yeah, I appreciate you guys asking about that. Vision Quest is definitely hopefully making a return this year. We've kind of taken a step back from social media and unplugged for a little bit, and I just it wasn't that I wasn't posting. I just didn't even want to like be online. We just had a lot of stuff going on personally and with raising a new baby, and then Winnie's mom has had some health concerns that we've needed to put a lot of time and love into. And it forced us to kind of postpone Vision Quest. But it's always been something that I've really been drawn to and really passionate about, as far as just providing a space that I feel like a sort of family has developed out of for, filmmakers to sort of, unplug, get off the computers and like recharge and connect with other filmmakers, and not sort of like be measuring each other against themselves, against other filmmakers, but see each other more as a family of us all kind of going through the same trials and tribulations, and same, sharing our wins, our fears, all the good and bad in between. And also just like, I think we're all hungry to like stay inspired, and it's a grueling process that us as filmmakers, like, we're very fortunate to be able to have cameras and people to pay us for like ideas inside our heads and pay us good money, to where we're our own bosses. We're able to support and take care of our families, but do it something that's like, that we're artists, and it's creatively fulfilling, but at the same time, like, always having to be on and be able to perform, and to like creatively come up with, to stay charged and able to like, okay, after each project, like, oh, I finished that, like, no, you got to start the next one, like, you got to be on like the whole time.
Yep.
And so I think, there needs to be a little bit of there needs to be a space like for people to like to share that like exhaustion, but like also to recharge. And I feel like a lot of education stuff is sort of, which rightfully so, there's so many people that are trying to learn like the basics and very, fundamental stuff, but there needs to be a space for, those that have already established themselves, but are still wanting to refine their cinematic, vocabulary and language, and always trying to like, up their game or level up. And, our sort of mantra there was always sort of, never the student, or sorry, never the master, or always a student, never the master. Sorry, I haven't said it in so long. And just provide like cool spaces to sort of hang out, and also have like great speakers, people that aren't typically on the sort of like speaker circuit, but are like really unique, creatively engaged, voices within our industry, and giving them a platform. And so, yes, long story short, the goal, I can't make any promises, but the goal right now is definitely to have a Vision Quest this September. That is the goal. I really hope we can do it. I really want to do it.
And I really want to go.
Yeah.
And
So
I also really want to go.
if you
So
get-
there's a lot on your shoulders.
yeah, if you guys are up for it, share your interest or level of interest, and might help push the needle a little further. But yes, that's the goal.
Whatever they're
Cool.
charging, guys, is worth it, especially if you're looking for something that, I think there's the idea of like refining your craft, but then there's the idea of becoming inspired.
Yeah.
And like, most people like don't need to be told how to shoot better, really. Maybe a little, but in general, people kind of like, it's not that they couldn't do something. They just don't have the thought in their mind to do it. And I think when you get people around each other who are inspiring and push each other, you will learn what you don't want to do, but you'll also learn what your possibilities will be open in your mind. Like, I was watching this film. I would never try to emulate the film that we just watched, but I brought all my guys into the office, and I said, hey, everyone, come and watch this film. And then I said to them, listen, the people that we're working with, they're bigger than the day. So what can you do this year when you're shooting your weddings? Obviously, we're not having these opportunities, but how can we make people more 360? How can we pull out of them? How do we tell better stories? That happens at Vision Quest. That to me was what that was all about, is like those kinds of conversations that you can have and stuff that I enjoy philosophically. What's funny is like,
Totally.
so anyway, but we're going to look at some films. Now,
Cool.
Here's how we do it, Alex. We like to do
Yeah.
a round of kind of maybe what we love about the film, some stuff they did well, and just some specifics. And then maybe some things. And so it's always about the level someone's at, right? So it's not things that we would do. It's things that maybe they could do to go to that next level. What's like the most immediate impact change that maybe they could make if they so choose to listen, to maybe elevate their film a little bit. And
we're going to be doing a minute only of these films. Some or most of these are members, so this is a special stream. We're going to try to fit in more, and we also want to be conscious of our time and Alex's time. So I know we normally do the full film. If you're a member, it's going to be shortened for everybody today, kind of with that in mind.
Hey, and guys, just a heads up, any of the questions that weren't answered, I'll try and answer them on the comment section. It's in a comment section on YouTube.
It'll be in the live chat, and
Okay.
you could add responses in comments and tag the person.
Okay,
You
you'll
want
just have
to,
to
yeah.
direct me how to do that, but I'll try and answer any of the questions that were asked that weren't addressed.
Cool, cool.
So this one's only 2 minutes, Bobby. Should I just play the whole thing? It's a member.
All right, we'll play the whole thing of this one, but then
I
we're
just-
going to a minute.
Well, definitely if they're longer films, but I think the short little one. I think Alex will have a better time watching the whole thing. Oh, wait, you know what? We didn't. One thing, Alex, we'll tell you who makes
Yeah.
the films afterwards.
Okay.
I don't want to bias you in case you know someone. So
Can we make it bigger on
You
my
can.
side or no?
Yes,
can.
on your side, if you go in the upper right corner of the screen that you want to make bigger, there should be a few dots, and you can click pin,
Okay,
and that will make
got
it
it.
bigger.
All right, I'm there.
you ready to
Let's
go?
do it.
Here we
Yep.
go.
I had a dream you left. Woke up in a cold, cold sweat. Sat up in the bed too quick. I was spinning. Moonlight on your cheek. I listened to you breathe. Didn't wanna go to sleep. I was shaking. Give me love, love, love. My heart won't beat without your blood. My heart won't beat without your blood. Was a cold, cold night. Woke up under blinds and lights. You screamed, what would I do without you? Can't have a spring without a winter. Can't have the sweet without the bitter. Give me love. I wanna feel the sting. Give me love. I'm not afraid to bleed until the cold sun sleeps. Till our lungs barely breathe. Give me love, love, love. My heart won't beat without your blood.
Okay, so that is our first film. So, oh no, I've let the name play. Oh well, I don't think Alex knows who they are. All right, so I'm gonna stay out of this one, guys. So it's gonna be Bobby and Alex. So, guys, what did you like about the film? What stood out as something that they did very successfully?
I can go
You or me
first real
first?
quick.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll go first. So I thought a couple of things I liked. I felt like we had a good sense of like place. We kind of had these different locations. Obviously, that castle or whatever you want to call it was pretty epic. Some of the drone shots incorporated stuff like that. And then also, while we didn't see a whole lot of it, like I think I recognized that ceremony setup seemed probably pretty complicated to capture. Um, just seemed pretty narrow and like super long aisle and stuff like that. So I think that was, you had some solid shots of. I think we saw 3 or 4 shots of that, and they all looked pretty solid. Especially given what was probably some complicated, you know, situations.
Yeah. I would say the color seems pretty dialed in. There's some, nice diffusion there. Compositionally, you do a good job of showing, this castle. I would definitely feature that. That seems like the star of the show. And I think I see it, probably 4 or so times. And each time it looks, really nice. I'm like, wow, that's a beautiful space. Yeah, most of the compositions are nice. There's no blatant, you know, overexposures or things maybe a little bit on that highlight there, the spotlight. But
That's a Fuji film for you.
yeah. Yeah, I'd say those are the things that like I think all the fundamentals, you nail all the sort of like usually the bride is like if they like have a checklist of shots, like I feel like you would hit that that checklist just within this.
Well, what do you think could be done to make it a little more interesting? Let's just do one thing that we think they could do to maybe level up as a filmmaker or as an artist or whatever it is.
You can go ahead, Al.
Okay.
So you go. I'm copy pasting.
I would say 2 things. One, having it not all be slow-mo, like mixing in some normal, 24p stuff, or even it can still be slow-mo, but it doesn't have to be 60 slow-mo. You can speed it up, 20% or 15%, just to where it's not all. I feel like some of the shots don't dictate that speed. Like if something's not dramatic, typically I won't have it in slow-mo. Or if like they're walking, like that's already kind of slow to some degree. So I don't want it 60 frames slow necessarily. Maybe a touch slow, but so it doesn't feel real, but it doesn't have to be like all the way slowed down. You have control over that speed. It doesn't have to be 60 or 24. It's not like one or the other. And then the other I would say is like, having and interjecting a little bit more of their personality or character. I feel like I see that visually, but like I'd love that there would be some narrative or narration in it to like have a little bit more semblance of who they are and add a little bit more drama, because like it is their wedding day and you have this external snapshot of who these people are, but there's nothing that's sort of capturing on the inside like who these people are, and that's one of the more compelling things of a wedding day is what these people are feeling.
Yeah, I really have. Those are the 2 exact same things that I was going to say. So I don't really have anything to add to that. I would agree with, there's a time and a place for slow motion, and I'm somebody who's come around a little bit more over the years to using slow motion where it makes sense, but I don't like it as the default, and I think that it can be easy to get into that pattern. I think we see that in some places here, and then yeah, the big thing, like that lack of kind of an audio, just being a music video, right? I think you could really bring this to another level with some speeches or incorporation of the ceremony or letters from them, or go all out, try to get the buy-in like Alex and Whitney does, and create around that. But with the understanding that I feel like this is a UK wedding. I could be wrong, and we always like to preface that we don't
I believe they're in the UK.
Yeah, I think so. And we know that can be different, and the norm can be different, but all that to say is like you don't always have to do the norm, and I think the film would be upgraded, with some more kind of like story elements woven through.
I agree.
Thanks for sharing.
Yeah, really
good. Sweet.
Why don't we give Bobby? Why don't you give him at least a little background to the film? Why don't we do that?
Yeah, I just totally skipped it. So we're going to go on to the next film, correct?
Yeah.
I'll read. I won't say who, but I'll read kind of the story.
Yeah.
So,
Just read the story.
this is the second time filming with this specific family. Something special about a shoot for being able to shoot for a family more than once.
Legacy clients.
Yeah, and this was shot on the Canon R7, R10, and R50, and then we have kind of the package details, but probably not as important.
All right, so we're gonna just do. Cool. I'm gonna play at least the first 30 seconds, and then we'll see what we want to jump to.
Megan,
that is not.
Can't believe
that's not it.
Nope.
Did I click on the wrong one?
That's the third one.
Really?
Yep.
What have I done? What have I done? It's hard to produce this and star on a show at the same time. Not that I'm starring. Alex is starring. All right, here we go. Let's do this thing. You guys ready? Here we are.
Let's do it.
Okay, turn around.
That was nice. He looks so good. Beautiful.
Thank you.
Okay, why don't we skip this? They had a first look, and they looked at each other, and they enjoyed it. They enjoyed what they saw. Where do you want to go to? You want to go to like maybe closer to the ceremony, Bobby?
Sure.
All right. Yeah, it looks like we got some vows. So let's check out this ceremony and kind of see how they connected that. And by the way, Alex, and everyone watching, we've had people say this comment before. Oh, you can't get a minute, like 2 minutes, blah, blah, blah. We understand that. We're not getting the full picture in 2 minutes, skipping around. We understand all that stuff. We're just calling
Can
it.
You turn up the YouTube audio as well, Jay.
Yeah, this one is a little quiet.
Well, it's
Thank you for filling in my gaps and allowing me to fill in yours. I can't tell you how excited I am to continue our love story together and make each other the greatest versions of ourselves. Forever and always, Maddie.
Kimball.
You are my world. You are my best friend. You have brought me more joy, laughter, and smiles than I ever could have hoped for. Forever and always, I will follow you anywhere, just you and me.
I present now to you for the first time, Maddie and Danny Woodward.
Hey, let's go to that. Check out the
and a lot of love from friends and families that surround them this evening.
Check out the party a little bit. How about that? And then we'll call it a film. Well, we're about there. Sorry, my mouse keeps disappearing.
Raise a glass for a toast to the lovely couple. Here's to a lifetime of love and happiness to Maddie and Danny.
Okay, I'm gonna keep this playing, and we'll play it in the background too as we talk. But what did we like about the film? What do we first? We'll start there. What did we enjoy about this film?
Alex, you want to go first this time?
Yeah, sure.
Keep swapping.
I think I really like that there are sort of different acts to this film, and like, you know, you have different tempos, emotional palettes. you started out with sort of a real time moment that, you wouldn't really have otherwise unless it was played out this way, and you really catch, sort of the emotion of what they're feeling. And it's hard to have like those documentary moments in weddings. And so that's great that you're able to include that. But then that crescendo that I saw at the end, you were able to match the footage, that tempo to the tempo of the music, which was already pretty fast. But you had enough engaging shots that were still left in the film. A lot of times, by the time you get to the crescendo and you've cut, 3 minutes and 20 seconds of a film, you're like, oh man, how am I going to get through this crescendo? And you still had enough ammo there with a lot of engaging shots and high energy stuff that felt like it merited that song, or that it could dance or match that song, dance with that song, or match that sort of energy or tempo or epicness. So the multiple sort of acts, or and having different sort of emotional palettes to play with, and that last crescendo, I would say, are the things that I would sort of mention right out of the gate.
Yeah, the first look in a non-linear way really worked in this film too. Like,
yeah, I would agree. I really like that intro with the first look. I also, I think my favorite things are, I'm actually going to come back to this a little bit, and the things for different to do differently, but especially with that beginning, that first 40 seconds or whatever we watch, like, I think this filmmaker, obviously I know who it is, but one of the things I always really love about their films is really leaning into their pace. And they have an ability to make a film that that can be slower paced, and I don't think everybody can always do that, and it always feels right, both with music choice and the story layout and the visuals. And so I think that worked really well. And then I also think, this film, and I think we've seen it in some others too, like, there's a unique ability to amplify what their day was. And that's not like to take away from who they are, what they chose, or what their venue was, but like, we see, this guy like building a fire at a little campfire in the beginning and stuff like that. Like, there's these very these moments that aren't like weddings so much, but they still fit in. And then you kind of take this, like, I don't know what you would call it. Like, this is a venue that's probably not in a major city, right? But you kind of elevate it, and you can make it, you can still make it great and make it feel high end, and make it feel, maybe not luxury is the word, but like, yeah, you elevate.
Yeah, elevated for sure.
Yeah.
What about something that you think the filmmaker could maybe do to elevate their next film?
Yeah. I guess I'll go up first on this one. I liked a lot of the energy we got at the end. I really felt like there was space to have some of that energy when the music kind of transitioned to that. It lined up with the first kiss, and then we kind of kept, I wouldn't say a slow pace, but it wasn't a fast pace. And I think, I didn't even see that pie in the face.
I saw that pie and I loved it.
But I think
that would have been my list of things they did well.
Yeah, they got a great pie in the face.
I love.
Yeah, that. I think I would have loved to seen like a little more energy there. And then I felt like the bridal prep, we kind of skipped it the first time, but we're kind of seeing it here. I think there's some things that could have been done visually, just a little, maybe like take a little more control. There were some good shots in there too, but some where I was like, it doesn't like quite match some of your other shots.
Yeah, I can see that. What about you? What do you think the filmmaker could work on to maybe elevate their filmmaking?
It's hard
based on seeing one film out of order.
Yeah, it's hard having skipped around in it to know like what holes it really has. I mean, I think for what it's trying to do, the type of film it's trying to make, I think they're doing it pretty well.
Yes, I mean that's definitely a thing, and we'll see if you like one thing. I think a lot of the low light stuff is very underexposed and kind of dingy looking, and it doesn't match, especially like stuff like this that's full sun, and like when he's in like great light, everything looks like one way, but then as the light is getting down, whether it's in the church or whatever. So I think that's a small thing. I would say, like, try to make the worst lighting conditions match the good lighting conditions when in your edit, even though they're different. Like, do, like, for instance, like there's this church shot and all the foreground pews are kind of like super underexposed and it's really blue looking. Yeah. And it's like, I would have crushed those blacks personally.
Yeah.
Like, just to make.
I just saw like that shot where she was going down the stairs. It was like set on auto expose, so it was exposed for the window that was in the corner of the frame, but she was pretty dark going down the stairs.
There's little things like that throughout the film that I think just your intentionality with your world building. I feel like color is a big part of, to me, world building, and like having consistent color throughout your entire film, not just when you're editing, but in shooting. Like, what's my approach to highlights? What's my approach to shadows? Like this right here, the shot just could, to me, like doesn't look as striking as it could because it looks unfinished. And little things like that.
Yeah. I feel like I saw a little bit of strobing on like a pan down of the church too. So like that's like a technical thing. Like their shutter was probably under 120 if they were shooting in 60p. And then like the first establishing shot inside the church, like I've seen motion kind of in all these shots, you know, and it was just the stagnant shots of the interior of the church, so it just felt a little jarring versus like a keyframe render, slight push in or something.
Yeah,
but all this is kind of like nitpicky stuff,
big time.
You know? I mean, but I think, you know, at a certain level, like that's what we're trying to do, is we're trying to like polish, you know, all the imperfections to sort of get to that.
That's what they're here for, Alex. That's what they're here for. They're here for the nitpicking. This is a great filmmaker, by the way, and he does a great job. And what's been cool about this filmmaker, Alex, is when they first started submitting films, they weren't as good.
Mm-hmm.
And they submit kind of regularly, and they're way better than they used to be. And it's like, I love watching it. Honestly, proud of you, buddy. Proud of you as a filmmaker.
Yeah.
Why don't we look at the next one?
Yeah, let's do the next one. They resubmitted as a teaser, and I think we'll just watch the whole thing. I think it's 2 minutes.
Yeah, we'll watch that. Is it?
It's the one that you brought up last.
Yes, the car.
That was
one.
incorrect. Yeah.
Foolish self.
The car one.
The amount of mistakes I make, it's so crazy. Like.
I can't believe we're already here at our 10-year anniversary. It seems like it was just yesterday that we were boyfriend.
Oh, I guess now you know.
On vacation through these very same mountains.
Savage this
I'll
one.
never
now.
forget, because that's when I knew I wanted to be with you for the rest of my.
By the way, as if you didn't notice, this is not a wedding film. I believe it's like an anniversary film. So.
Oh yeah, I could have given some info. Sorry.
Bit of a different type of film, but you know, similar points.
Totally.
After all, if we can survive my car breaking down in Crowheart, Wyoming, we can survive anything.
Author Alex Michaelides described love. We often mistake love for fireworks and for drama, for dysfunction. But real love is very quiet and very still. It's boring if seen from the perspective of high drama. Love is deep, calm, and constant. I know I don't tell you often enough that I love you, and I don't express my love as outwardly as you do. But I want you to know that there are more moments than you realize where my heart skips a beat and I get butterflies. I know I joke that if anything were to happen, that I would never get married again because putting up with you for the last 10 years has been a nightmare. But honestly, it's because God knows my heart has always belonged to you, only you, and it always will.
vow to continue to commit my life to you and love you as God loves us. I promise to continue to support you, care for you through sickness and in health, and hold your hand as we walk together with God through any tough days we may face. I love you with all my heart, and you truly make me the luckiest. I love you.
Just as a human being, I enjoy that film. Just because, I don't know. Marriage is hard, man. Do it 10 years. That's great. That's cool. So, all right. So what did you guys enjoy about that film?
You, Bobby, me, you,
Yeah.
what's going on?
I can go first. Things that I like. I liked some of the framing. You know, you're capturing these vows, we'll call them. I guess I don't know. And I like the idea to incorporate
Weird
the mountains
noise.
in some of that. What?
There's a weird noise happened. Sorry, everyone
Weird.
watching.
Obviously, you know, you're in this epic location. It would be such a shame to not, you know, include the mountains where you can. And so, you know, obviously we want like some of those close-ups too and whatnot and that emotion and whatnot. But like, I like, we cut away to some of those wider shots while they're still speaking. And I like that. And I like the car stuff too. We're only on it for, you know, 2 or 3 shots, but I feel like that stuff is always like fun and unique and just something different in the film. So
Now it's your turn, Alex.
All right. So I will say I'm going to start off with the car stuff. I feel like, you know, piggybacking off of what Bobby is saying, that, you know, there's only so much footage of them like walking around in a field that you can kind of play off of and show back to back. So I feel like that was a good kind of like palette cleanser. I feel like you could have returned to it maybe later as well, but I feel like I really like that. You know, I had talked about earlier how in non-linear, non-sequential films, how you'll have these kind of like sync points and you're like, oh, eureka, like that's a sync point. It's great. And it feels like a kind of feather in the cap for the editor when it happens. Like he's talking about how his car broke down and like if you would be together with me after my car broke down and, you know, these mountains. And so starting the film with him driving, like it kind of feels like that, like, oh, there was an intention to like having him driving. It wasn't just like random B-roll. And so I feel like that's one of those, you know, sync points for me that I enjoyed. And then, you're in a beautiful location like that. So I like that shot a lot. So you might as well like showcase it, you know, like you have this couple who's wanting you to film, you know, this elopement or anniversary in a national park. So if they want it there in a national park, they clearly want that to be sort of a third character in the film. And I feel like you did a pretty good job showcasing that location your drone shots, you know, even threw a time lapse in there. You know, putting the couple in the location was all nice. And I know you're a great single cam op, so you know how you shot the ceremony with multiple angles. You know, it's nice. That one's a little tricky, that angle, because it's got the clouds in the background and you're exposing for their faces, but we can talk about that later. I'd say mainly that sync point was my favorite thing in the whole film that stood out to me. And it felt like it made the film very personal and like, you know, custom made for them, because that was clearly such a part of their story. Yeah. And they'll think about that when they see that driving sequence.
So I kind of feel like I have a sense of what you guys are going to say, what you think they can do to improve. But I'm interested, because I feel like this is a really...
he did... Oh, no, you started the film over again. I was like, you did cut back to the driving.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of really potential in this film. And and it's good. It's good in its own right. It's good the way it is today. But I do feel like this could be way better. And I think that's always a good thing, by the way. That's not a bad thing. And so what do you think this filmmaker could do to, let's just talk in terms of this film, to level up this film?
You want me to go or you?
Yeah, you go, Alex.
I think you can go, Alex.
Okay. So some technical things like that shot that just showed up. Like, I feel like that's sort of a checklist shot, the hands being held. But I felt like compositionally it wasn't a strong shot. Like, and if you're there for an elopement, you have as much time as you want. Like, I would just nail those, those fundamental shots like that. Probably just felt a little tight. Maybe it looked like you were trying to frame the mountain in the background or something, but I don't know. It just felt like compositionally, like it just didn't vibe right. The slow-mo, there's a lot of slow-mo besides them speaking. I like that you took them on the road there, but just more variation, and I feel like if you have the technical stuff like the clouds and some of the shots are blown out, and it's fine, I feel like, if they're close-ups of the couple and they're blown out, but like if they're wider shots, it's a little trickier. It becomes a little distracting, I'd say. If they are blown out, like that ceremony low camera angle, I think it was like a wide shot and the clouds behind them. Now, some of that's just limitations of, where they wanted to get married. But I feel like on an elopement or anniversary / elopement, you kind of have full control as a director. So I would say, just being very intentional, and I would say having a little more variety, with a couple. Maybe have an interior space where you film them that was a little more intimate to kind of contrast this, or like how you did the driving sequence, like build that up a little bit more. The only voiceover I heard from them was their vows, so like maybe having some other audio, whether it was letter writing or them just chatting in the car, type of thing. But yeah, it's your own set at that point. So like anything you could want to do, the sort of world is your oyster at that point, in these type of shoots. Let's see. Yeah, not everything 60p. Another audio, source, building up the road, other locations. I feel like some of the B-roll, like, I don't know. And then like technical stuff, like I felt like that shot really showcased her arm, and like maybe I wouldn't do that as much with her, like, because you just want to show everyone in their most flattering angles and stuff. And I know brides can be really sensitive about stuff. So like just finding the most flattering angles, I guess, of your subjects. I do like that road. So especially with like the story background, I'd probably play up that road a little bit more. You had them walking on it, you had them driving on it, but maybe even just showcasing it more on its own, like just the road and the stripes in the road, or a time lapse of the clouds going by on the road, or them just hanging out driving in the car more. Yeah,
Looks,
I don't know. I'm just riffing.
Well, I'm curious about that. Like, it looks like kind of high sun.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm curious why he chose to shoot the time of day he chose to shoot.
Yeah, and that's a good question. Yeah,
and I think back to what you're saying is just, I personally think he should have asked more of the couple to make this film, and they probably would have done it. And I think, like, give yourself the confidence to ask people to do a little bit more. I think this film would be a lot more 360 and a little more 3D.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, Bobby, why don't you take us out, and then we'll kind of end the stream.
Yeah. As far like just closing thoughts, or what do you want here?
Yeah. I was just gonna say, first and foremost, Alex, thank you so much for coming on the stream. Where can people find you?
On Instagram, Sculpting with Time, our website. Follow Vision Quest on Instagram, I guess. And yeah, just Sculpting with Time. Check out us wherever you want, I guess.
Yeah, they're coming back to the world. They're releasing content again. So it's definitely, if you haven't checked them out in a while, go check out their social media. They're dropping some films. They dropped a couple, and some of the best work yet, Alex.
Yeah, if you haven't seen any of our work, not all of our films look like that Hawaii film. I encourage you to check out some of our stuff. It's sort of a full range of emotion and tempo and pacing and vibe.
Definitely
but
true.
yeah, I think you'll enjoy it. So yeah, check out our work if you can.
Bobby,
but thanks for coming on. Thanks for having us on. Thanks for sharing the love and the space with us. And really value and appreciate what you guys are doing here for the community at Wedding Film School. I know it takes a lot of time, a lot of effort, a lot of intention, a lot of energy, and just a lot of love for the industry and for what you're doing and for filmmaking and weddings in general. So thank you guys.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
I mean, this is always our heart is to connect people to the best people and to help them learn, not from us. We're the conduit. So we're grateful for all of you guys who participate. Hey, is Whitney here? Come and say bye, Whitney.
Hey, we're just hanging up. Why don't you come on? Olivia, come say hi.
Oh, hi, Olivia.
Just come say hi real quick.
Oh. Bye. Hopefully you had a
Thank
great
you,
day of
guys.
school, Olivia.
You're done? You want to say hi?
Hi, Olivia. Thank you guys for having us. Bobby, why don't you take us out while they're saying bye?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you guys all for joining. As always, go ahead and subscribe if you aren't already. Turn on the notification bell. You can also consider becoming a member. Like we said, I think we did only member films actually today.
Yes.
So some benefits to that, of course. And then go follow us over on our sister channel, The Wedding Film School Show, where our podcast lives, which we are currently in season. And finally, keep your eyes out for the launch of another channel, Wedding Film 101. We are making a bunch of content for that right now, getting a handful of things uploaded, and then we'll launch the channel. And we would love to have you guys, kind of our dedicated core subscribers, join us over there, show some support for that channel, and help us get it launched.
Yeah.
Comments and views and likes and all that stuff. So we will see you next week at the exact same time. Thank you so much for joining. Thanks again to Alex and Whitney of Sculpting with Time. Super grateful to them. And we'll see you in a week.
Bye, guys.
See ya.
Sick. Great job, Alex. Really fun.
Yeah, it was
thanks,
awesome.
man.